Hello everyone, welcome back to the video series of object oriented programming with Java. Our today's topic for this particular video, that is a Java programming using exception. I am an instructor Mr. Ankit Patel. So let's start the programming. Now in this session I will show you the different example of the exception handling. So here I am giving you more example of the exception. So let's discuss the first program of the exception, that is the write a program to create the user defined exception. So that is the custom exception, and define a class exception demo that has a method name called as an compute, which throw a my exception object when the compute integer parameter is greater than 10. So that means we are generating an exception if the method parameter that is greater than 10, right? So we are entering this particular value as an command line argument. So if you are entering that particular value or value of the compute in any of the greater than 10, or that will generate an exception. So once again, this is not a part of inbuilt class exception. So we are creating a custom exception, that is a my exception, and that is a part of the exception. And simply the structure I am creating as the same that I have already explained in my last video. That is creating a one default constructor. In that particular constructor I am passing the simple message. Now in a main class I am using a function that is a compute. Now compute I am just passing a one parameter that is an integer n, and if the n is greater than 10, then we are throwing a new my exception, that we are just calling that particular class and just catch that particular class. So here this is the code for if the value is greater than 10, then this will raise an exception. Now in main I am just creating the object of exception and just calling the object e1 dot compute, that is equals to 9. So if you are passing a 9, there is no problem. Let's check it out. Java C, this is example 4, then Java AX4 is there. So there is no problem. But now if you are passing the value that is greater than or equal greater than 10, that is equals to, suppose if I am passing a 90, then this will raise an exception. You can see custom exception number is greater than 10. Even you can also pass this value as a command line argument, right? Because in question there is no any type of statement returned like that value enter as a command line argument. So I am not using the command line argument, but you can use the command line argument for this particular program. So hope you understand. This is again one of the code for handling the exception using the custom exception. My next program is also just use of the custom exception, but this is again important program, that is a write a program to compute to accept the n integer number from the command line argument. So here there is no any restriction that how many number you are entering the n number that we are getting using the args.length. Raise and handle exception for the following cases. So here the 4 different cases there. So if you are entering any of the command line argument in this specific 4 case, then it will raise an exception. The first condition, that is when the number is negative. Any of the number you are entering a negative, this will raise an exception. Next, when the number is evenly divisible by 10, that you are entering a number like 10, 20, 30, 40, that is the number is divisible by 10, then again it will raise an exception. If the number is greater than 1000 and less than 2000, so if you are entering the number between these 1000 and 2000, again it will raise an exception. Then next, when the number is greater than 7000. So here the 4 condition is given, that number is divisible by 10, it will raise an exception. Number is negative, it will raise an exception. If it is between 1000 and 2000, it will raise an exception. And if it is greater than 7000, again it will raise an exception. And skip the number if the exception is right. That is the most important line. That number we need to just keep and otherwise add it into total sum. So we are just find out the sum of the n number, but we are skip the number if it is between 1000 and 2000, if it is greater than 7000, or if it is divisible by 10, or if it is negative, we are skip that particular number and just calculate the sum of the number. So for custom exception, what we have understand, In a custom exception, you are creating a specific user defined class that is a part of the exception, and we are just creating the object in a catch, and then finally call this particular if the condition is satisfied. So here there are the 4 condition is there. So I am creating a 4 different class that is a part of the exception. You can see here I am creating a one class negative to handle the negative exception, one class that is divisible by 10. For that I am creating a div by 10 class. Another class I am creating between, if the value is between 1000 and 2000, then it will rise an exception. And fourth class I am creating a greater class, that is if the value is greater than 7000. So I have created 4 class, and for 4 class I am creating a 4 different condition in a main. But first of all in a main I have created one for loop that is repeated hours dot length. That means how many, that is no limit of how many number you are entering command line argument. Any of the command line argument any number of you are entering, I am checking a one by one each and every number. So in a try block I am converting that a specific number to the integer, and I store that value in n. So now here n is a number, I want to just check it out if it is negative, if it is divisible by 10, it is between the 1000 and 2000, or it is greater than 7000. I am just keep that particular number. Now how to check? So I am just checking if n is less than 0, throw new negative. Else if I am just using a else if because any of the command line argument is matched, that I am just skip that particular number. Throw if the number is greater than 1000 and less than 2000, number is greater than 7000, or if the n mod to 10, that is equals to 0, that means the number is divisible by 10. If all of these condition is satisfied, the else portion is definitely not executed. So in else portion I am just writing sum is equal to sum plus n. So if any of the condition is satisfied, else portion is not executed, and if any of the condition is not satisfied, finally the else portion is executed. In else I am just adding this n to the sum, and after the try I am just adding the different 4 catches there, that is a negative exception handling, divisible by 10, between, and if it is greater than, and finally outside of the for loop I am just printing the value of the sum. So this is a simple code I have written, and you can see no doubt the line of code is English, but you can easily understand this program because I am writing a simple code for this particular program, because I have created different class for the different condition. So let's check it out, our code is right or wrong. And that is a Java C, our class name, that is a example 5.java. There is no error. Let's run it. I am entering a first of all normal value 1 2 3 4 5, and the sum that is equals to 15. But if my number is negative, now see if I am entering a -2 over here, my sum become 13 inch, and one exception, that is a negative exception, is generated. Right. Now if you are entering a number that is between 2000, the divisible by 10 is there, and number is 2000, so I am just not considering for the summation. If the number is greater than 7000, that is I am entering a 888, again it will skip, and the sum is equal to 4 plus 3 plus 1, right, and the different exception is generated accordingly. So, and if you are entering a number that is divisible by 10, I have already entered, right, and you can enter any number of argument over here, you can see. So hope you understand the code for this particular program. And now my next program, that is a most again a important program, and a logical program is there. That is, it is required to maintain and process state of the 9 resources. So this is simply we are just entering the state of the processes. The state value is to be stored in the integer array dimension 3 cross 3. So here the 9 value is there, and 9 value I am entering in using the array, that is a 3 cross 3 array is there. So 3 cross 3 total 9 value, and I am storing the state of the process in an array. Now what are the different condition is there? The valid status of the resource can only be following: free indicated by 0, 1 indicated by the value 1 indicated by the occupy, and the value 2 denoted by inaccessible, right? So what is our program? To declare a class called resource status having a data member called status reference that referring the two-dimensional array of the integer and used to refer the above mentioned status. That is, the status are 0, 1, 2. 0 means free, 1 is occupy, and 2 means inaccessible. Define a member method called process status count that count and display the total number of free resources. So how many number of free resources you can easily check using a number of 0 in your array. Total number of occupy resources, that means you just need to count down the total number of 1, and total number of inaccessible resources, that is the total number of 2 is there. The exception, when the exception is generated, the exception is to be raised and handled if the total number of occupy resource is exceed. Means the total number of resource are occupy is exceeds the total number of free resources, right? When the exception is generated, the total number of occupy resources exceeds that when the total number of occupy resources is greater than the total number of free resources. The handler mark the status of all the inaccessible resource as a free. So if the condition is satisfied, like my occupy resource is greater than the free resources, then all the inaccessible resource I just want to do as a free and accept the initial status value from the command line argument. So all the value of the 9 value I am entering using the command line argument, and initialize the array and raise and handle the user defined exception if the invalid value given. That is, even you are entering an invalid value, right? Like you are entering the invalid value means you are entering the any of the value other than the 0, 1 and 2. Let's check. First of all, I am just creating the class for the invalid value, that is invalid custom exception that exceed. Exceed means if the occupy resource is greater than the free resources. That is custom generated. Then the resource status count, I am just creating a class and declaring a one array that is a resource reference 3 cross 3. I am just initialize the value free is equals to 0, occupy is equals to 0, and inaccessible is equals to 0, and I am just incrementing just counter. So in method, in a constructor, I am just passing the string of s1 that is equals to nothing but my command line argument. So I am just initializing the array reference I is equals to integer dot parse int s1 of n and n plus plus initially the n value is 0. So I am just copy the value to the array. All the 9 value that you are entering in your command line argument, all this value I am entering into the array. Now I am just counting down the process state count. Now again in a nested for loop, because this is a 2-dimensional array, the 2 loop is required, and if the any of the value becomes 0, then free plus plus, because I am just counting how many free resources are there. Any of the value become 1, that occupy plus plus, and any of the value become 2, then the inaccessible plus plus. Else, what it mean? If the value is other than 0, 1 and 2, at that time this will raise an exception of the invalid. That means invalid and invalid status value. That suppose if you are entering the value 3, 4 or any of the rest other than the 0, 1, 2. Now after this is a nested try. After the end of this particular loop, I am just using a one try catch over here. If the occupy is greater than free, that I am just creating a counter occupy plus plus and free plus plus. If the occupy is greater than that, through new exceed, and I am just total number of occupy resources equals to exceed the total number of free resources, and free is equals to free plus inaccessible, whatever the number of inaccessible is there, and inaccessible is equals to 0. And finally I am printing the value how many free resources are there, occupy resource and inaccessible resource are there. And in the main, just I am passing the command line argument that is s. Here I am using args, I am just using s and passing in a constructor that is over here. You can see where I am using here. I am using here in here for the assigning the value to the array. Right? Let's check it down. Java C 6.java, there is no error. Then Java example 6, we required a total 9 value we need to enter. 0 means free, 1 0 1 1 2 2 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 and 0. So here the total number of free resources is equals to 4, total number of occupied resources is equals to 3, and total number of inaccessible is equals to 2. You can see there is no any kind of exception is generated because any of the condition is not just matching with. If I am entering an invalid number, like if I am entering a 9 over here, the invalid status value and the total number of just printed, but here the invalid value is generated. Now suppose if I am entering a 1 over here, that what it mean? The total number of accessible resource is greater than the free resource. At the same time, exception is generated. Total number of occupied resources exceeds the total number of free resources. Now what I want to do, I am just converting inaccessible resource to the free resources. So here the free resource is inaccessible. How many number of inaccessible resources? That is equals to 2, and total number of free resources, that is equals to 3. So 3 plus 2, I am converting the inaccessible resource to the free resource. So that is equals to 5, and occupied resources and inaccessible is equal to 0. Right? So that is our main logic of the program. So hope you understand all these 3 programs that I have explained in this particular video. So this is the end of the programming. So thank you very much. If you have any doubt, you can feel free to ask me. Thank you very much.